Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Beyond Dope, episode 5. Okay, we are going to start off with the serenity prayer like we always do. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Today's reading is called Serenity After the Storm. Someone who knew what he was talking about once remarked that pain was the touchstone of all spiritual progress. How heartily we AAs can agree with him. When on the roller coaster of emotional turmoil, I remember that growth is often painful. My evolution in AA program has taught me that I must experience the inner change, however painful. That eventually guides me from selfishness to selflessness. If I am to have serenity, I must step my way past emotional turmoil and its subsequent hangover, and be grateful for continuing spiritual progress. AA thought for the day. How do I talk with new prospects? Am I always trying to dominate the conversation? Do I lay down the law and tell prospects what they will have to do? Do I judge them privately and feel that they have small chance of making the program? Do I belittle them to myself? Or am I willing to bare my soul so as to get them talking about themselves? And then, am I willing to be a good listener, not interrupting but hearing them out to the end? Do I feel deeply that they are my brothers and my sisters? Will I do all I can to help them along the path to sobriety? Meditation for the day. The work of righteousness shall be peace, and the effect of righteousness shall be quietness and assurance forever. Only when the soul attains this calm can there be true spiritual work done, and mind and soul and body be strong to conquer and bear all things. Peace is the result of righteousness. There is no peace in wrongdoing, but if we live the way God wants us to live, quietness and assurance follow. Assurance is that calmness born of a deep certainty of God's strength available to us and in his power to love and guard us from all harm and wrongdoing. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may attain a state of true calmness. I pray that I may live in quietness and peace. Okay, so just to go over the reading really quick, the thought for the day always, that thought for the day always gets me. It's not even talking about, new prospects. For me, I try to compare that to my life. Am I, how do I talk to people? Do I dominate the conversation? Do I, whether it's at your job, do I lay down the law? Am I a good listener? Am I not interrupting them, but actually hearing them out to the end? People in daily conversation, people I work with, people, my family, my friends, when these people talk, especially about their problems, am I actually listening? These are questions that are worth asking, right? Okay, so we did get a few new listeners, one in the United Kingdom and one in San Antonio, which I thought was really cool. Every once in a while, I'll log on to the RSS page and see where the downloads are coming from. And I'm just blown away at how this thing moves around. It's so cool. And just thank you all for your support. And please keep sending in your questions or comments to beyonddopepodcast@gmail.com. Okay, today's email is from Becca, 26-year-old female. And she writes, it's more of a comment, I guess, but it's kind of a question. I don't know. My boyfriend and I have been together for over 6 years. Every time we go to rehab, they teach us about codependency and explain how two addicts can simply not work. We stay in our respective sober houses for a little while, but every time we end up back together, and every time we end up using again. We have both been to rehab several times. He is currently in jail, and I'm doing well. I'm 4 months sober, but I'm terrified of what happens when he gets out. If you have any advice or experience with this, I'd love to hear it. Okay, so I do have some experience with this. Like, I think we all do. You know, we weren't all just loner addicts, right? Most of us had somebody else, and we didn't know we were codependent until we went to rehab. And I am in no way an expert in this, but I do remember when Amber and I were in a rehab together, this guy, one of the other people that were there for treatment, started talking to me, and he really tried hard to get it through my head. He was like, John, it's not going to work. Two addicts cannot be together, you know. And I mean, he really sat with me with it, you know, there for a while. You know, he said, you know, I know it's terrible. Trust me, I get it. Because, I mean, he had gone through this too. So he had lived it. You know, we all think it's not going to happen to us. We all think that we're the exception, right? Our love is stronger than that. Our love is better than that. We're not like everybody else. But the truth is we are. And I think it's terrible. It really is. It's sad. It's very sad to have to get sober and lose someone that you care so much about. But you have to. It's part of it. I've seen the people who stick together, and they might have it together for a little while, but I've never seen two people together. And I mean, don't take my word for it. You know, maybe there's some people out there that have been together for a very long time, but I'm sure that statistics show that it simply doesn't work out. And I know that's hard to hear. I'm not sure where you're living, Becca, but I mean, maybe check yourself into a sober house. I did send you an email back. And if anybody has any advice for Becca, please email in or reach out to us on Facebook. It's hard. You're already dealing with so many complexities when you're trying to get sober. And now your whole life is being, uprooted. If you have kids with this person too, it makes it that much harder. I'm going to talk about codependency for a minute because maybe some people don't know what it is. I would imagine if you're listening to this, you know what it is, but the definition of codependency is a behavioral condition where an individual excessively relies on someone else for their emotional or psychological needs, often at the expense of their own well-being. This reliance leads to an imbalanced relationship dynamic where one person may prioritize the needs and feelings of another over their own. Sometimes it's to maintain a sense of control or identity. We don't even know that we're doing it. That's the terribly scary thing. Some common characteristics of codependency. 1, excessive caregiving, putting others' needs before your own, often neglecting self-care. I was big on this one. I constantly put other people's needs above my own, and I thought I was being, chivalrous. I thought I was being a good guy. But the truth is I was just neglecting myself, and we could be extremely manipulative when we're on drugs, and we don't know it until we get sober, right? Because we have all these excuses and all these blockers up in our brains, where we think that we're, like I said, we think we're being great people, and we're not. We're actually selfish in a whole new manipulative way. Number 2, people pleasing. A strong desire to be liked or appreciated leads to prioritizing others' approval over personal needs and values. Now, we all want to be liked, but do you want to be liked so bad that you're putting others' approval over your own personal needs? That's the question, because when I read these, we're all going to have one or two of them, okay? We're all going to have some form of these, and we're going to, and people are going to be freaking out, right? I'm still codependent. Well, that's not the case. It's kind of, there's complexities in here that we're dealing with. So listen to the whole thing and really think about it and do your own research. Number 3 is lack of boundaries. A difficulty setting and maintaining healthy boundaries, resulting in over-involvement in others' lives. This one is kind of huge because this is, the people who have all the advice for others, right? But they can't really get themselves together. They have their own problems, but they can fix everybody, but they can't fix themselves. And I think to some degree we all have that a little bit. Number 4 is control issues. The need to control people or situations, often to foster a sense of security or predictability. Like I said, we are extremely manipulative, especially on drugs. There's also codependent people that aren't on drugs. I mean, they're terribly codependent and they don't even know it. Number 5 is low self-esteem, relying on external validation for self-worth, often feeling inadequate or unloved. And this one, especially with drug use, hits home because when we're using drugs, we feel like just the worst of the worst. We physically feel like shit. We emotionally feel even worse than that. I mean, we think that we're the lowest of the low because of some of the things that we've done. So, of course, we feel inadequate. Of course, we feel unloved. So, especially in addiction, I think everybody is going to have that one. Denial. No, I'm sorry, number 6, denial. Difficulty acknowledging personal issues or feelings, often focusing on others' problems instead. This kind of goes hand in hand with the other one that we were talking about. You're fixing other people's problems instead of your own. Number 7, emotional reactivity, tendency to overreact to others' behaviors or emotions, often reflecting a personal insecurity. Number 8, dependency, an intense need for acceptance and affirmation from others, often leading to clingy and fear-based behaviors. What is a fear-based behavior? A fear-based behavior is going to be any action that you're doing that's driven by fear or anxiety. These are constant worrying, people-pleasing, needing excessive reassurance, checking your partner's phone, right? Number 9 is fear of abandonment. Anxious about being abandoned or alone, which can lead to controlling or manipulating behavior to keep relationships intact. As everything else in drug use, it's multiplied times 10. Number 10, self-sacrifice, prioritizing others' happiness over your own, leading to resentment and burnout. A lot of these kind of sound similar, but those were the 10 characteristics, and I'm sure you have a couple. I know I do. And we work on them, right? We try to take baby steps, make progress. Catch yourself, right? Catch yourself when you're doing these things, and learn from them. And eventually, change the behavior. Eventually, you won't do it anymore. But that takes time. My personal experiences with these characteristics, I self-sacrificed. I overthought everything. I was way terrified of being alone. Everything's magnified, like I said, when you're on drugs. So these fears ate me alive. I had a huge fear of abandonment. I put the needs of people I loved way above my own. And I mean, especially when we're younger and involved in drugs, we're so much more manipulative on drugs. We don't even realize we're doing it, but we're doing it. Okay, so from there, I want to jump back into the story. Last episode, my friend Brad was killed overseas in Iraq, and when Brad died, it was crazy. It was nuts. Reporters were knocking on our door all the time. I was on the front page of the Plain Dealer watching his casket being removed from a plane. It was so many emotions, so raw. It felt like you were outside yourself watching all of this play out. I remember when he first decided to join. I was so mad at him. I remember screaming at him in my backyard, saying, "I'm not going to comfort your mom when you end up getting killed." And I hate that I said that to him, but I said it. And I was just trying to get him to do what I wanted him to do and what I thought was right for him. I told him we have enough that we're going to be forced to go through. My brother Eric had died. My brother Evan was younger and had that same disease. I begged him, don't do this. And he wasn't listening. This was something that I could not convince him to not do. He was on a path here. And looking back on it, I mean, obviously the outcome was terrible, but I'm very proud of him in every way. I mean, just being able to make that decision, because we were all so easily influenced especially when we're younger. I mean, especially by our friends too. And mine and his relationship was so close. The fact that he left and did this was such a huge step for him. It was like this was his own thing. And while he was over there, he made so many friends, and he loved it while he was involved in it. He wasn't going to sign up again. We had talked about that, but obviously it ended terribly, which is just such a shame. The whole time I was on so many drugs. I was on OxyContin still. OxyContin, Percocets, and Valium were being dropped off like crazy. But I went to go see a psychiatrist in Beechwood, Ohio. And this psychiatrist, I told him what was going on. He prescribed me, out of the gate, it was 3 Xanax bars a day with 0.5 milligram Klonopin in between. So I was on 6 milligrams of Xanax a day and 1.5 milligrams of Klonopin every day. And mind you, I was 21 years old. So, a doctor's prescribing this. And I mean, I obviously, I thought I was a pharmacy tech myself. So I was taking even more than was prescribed with the OxyContin in between it and on top of it. and the Percocets. Not to mention we were drinking. I look back at this time of roughly about 3 years and wonder how the hell I didn't die. We were out of control, just absolutely out of control. It was like a bad movie with some very emotional, rememberable, good parts to it. When we went from the church to the funeral home, there was a motorcade. Brad's friends, which is the limo that I was in, had one limo, and Brad's family had another limo, and the kids in the schools, the residents of Garfield Heights lined up on the streets. I mean, there was so many people. I've never seen that many people line up for a funeral in my entire life. It was such a show. It was impossible not to get emotional. It was this incredibly captivating. Anyone who needed a hug, anyone who started crying, I mean, there was just people right there who knew exactly how you felt. I was asked to give the eulogy at his funeral, which I thought was a cruel twist of fate, because this was the man who was supposed to give my best man speech in just a few months. You're listening to Beyond Dope. New episodes available every Friday. To email us with your questions or comments, please reach out to us at beyonddopepodcast@gmail.com. Being prescribed that much anxiety medication was such a terrible thing for me at that time in my life. I was taking it way too fast, especially the week of and the week after the funeral. So I was running out, and I was doing everything I could to find more, but I couldn't find more all the time. And withdrawals from Xanax and Klonopin were just absolutely terrible. It was really unlike anything that I'd gone through, because I had always had a pretty steady supply of opiates. I became increasingly reckless. Anybody's house I was over, I would just rummage through their medicine cabinet, see if I liked anything, see if I could find any anxiety meds. There was a couple times where I would go see the doctor that prescribed this stuff, and he would just write me more. I mean, he was, looking back on it, he was absolutely part of the problem. I mean, this was a doctor who knew that my best friend had just died and that I was drinking a lot. I mean, I hid my drug use from him, but I did not hide my alcohol use at all. We discussed that. And when you think about the deadly combination of anti-anxiety meds with alcohol, it's really crazy. This really was, though, it was such a different time in 2009 as it is now in 2025. It was like unbelievable to think that a doctor would be charged with something like that back in 2009, or a doctor would be part of the problem. I mean, doctors all over were just pushing this shit everywhere. OxyContin in, pain clinics. I mean, pain clinics were huge. It was just everywhere. Pain clinics, anxiety meds. There was just this surplus of medication. So it back in the day, it really pissed me off when I couldn't find more anxiety meds, because I looked at it like I needed these. A doctor prescribed them to me. I was sharing with Amber, of course. That's what we did, right? And we ran out too soon and went into withdrawal, which was absolutely hell. There was a few other terrible things that kind of were timed up just right to make our withdrawals just that much more terrible. Jason's dad had been upped from OxyContin to a drug called Opana, a stronger narcotic. He went from getting 80 milligram OxyContins to 60 milligram Opanas. His Percocets, his Percocet 10s were upped to hydromorphone 4 milligram, which is Dilaudid. So now instead of OxyContin and Percocets, we're taking Opanas and Dilaudids. And the craziest part is Jason's dad, because I'm so manipulative, believes that these new drugs that he's on are worth less than the OxyContin and the Percocets. So now I'm getting more of them. This fact, coupled with the anxiety meds from the doctor in Beechwood, made for a very crazy 2009 and 2010. I mean, I don't know how we went through all the drugs that we went through and I'm still here, to talk about it. I have no idea how we survived back then, but we did. The human body is incredibly resilient. I still don't know how we did it because we were nuts back then. Okay, so next time I'll talk about Amber and I's first rehab and the crazy plans that we concocted once all the pills started going away. There came a time when all the pills started to get reformulated so you couldn't crush them and snort them anymore. You would think that would be the end of the addiction story, right? Go to rehab, get sober. That is not what anybody did. And if you're listening to this, I'm sure you know that because that's probably not what you did. But I am going to leave it there for the day. Guys, please reach out to us on Facebook. Follow the show. Any constructive criticism, I'd love to hear it. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, one day at a time.